An interesting headline Covino saw as we were prepping for the show.
I'll give props. It's from The Ringer, theringer.com, and the story was that this weekend Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen are trying to rewrite their playoff story. They're trying to rewrite their playoff story. Big implications, big game, two monster teams going head-to-head, but they both have the shot to rewrite their story. And it got me thinking, we see these things play out, and that's a really great feeling for both teams to have that opportunity, both quarterbacks to have that opportunity. But are there other stories that come to mind, especially in entertainment, definitely in sports, where you watch and you wish you could rewrite the ending?
There are
the story.
So many great answers, and let's get the phones rolling. Let's be the most interactive show like we always are on Fox Sports Radio.
Can I give the two best examples?
Please do. Let me give the number for the newbies that might be joining us for the first time, 877-99 on Fox. But before you get to your examples, just think about that for a second. Before you give the great examples, I'm sure you have loaded.
They're the best examples because they're my examples.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Of the two guys you just spoke of, the game of the week.
Oh, I get so excited.
No one has an instinct on this game. And if you do, I would love to hear your amazing instinct because
honestly, this is like a heavyweight fight where anything could happen. That's why I love it. That's why I compare it to boxing all the time. This is Fury Usyk. These are two heavyweights going at it. Could be anybody's game. Anybody could get knocked out at any time. That's what I love about this.
I do think, though, that when you talk about the unpredictability of what's going to go down Sunday night, the last game of divisional weekend, I, much like every other NFL fan, is like, how am I supposed to tell you what I think? Because the reality is Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, both look like they cannot be stopped. Add Derrick Henry, add that the fact that Buffalo has a home game.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that the minuscule edge where you're like, man, it seems like Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson are unstoppable.
And remember again, you got Lamar Jackson with Henry, like you said. You have Josh Allen with good vibes, too. Like, he's playing this dream season. He credits his fiance. He's like, he's never been in a better mental space. He's never felt better about his team. Like, this guy's riding on a super emotional high.
I'm saying even that little inkling, that little beep, that little part of you that's like, maybe you give the edge to Lamar and Derrick Henry.
I kind of do.
Again, it doesn't look like they could be stopped. You counter that immediately with, well, the game's in Buffalo, and the Bills Mafia,
and balances things out
and
a little.
The fan base, and the weather, and the vibes. That to me completely offsets that slight little edge you might think the Ravens have. So before you even get to the great examples of what stories and sports and movies and history you'd like to rewrite, who has more at stake here on Sunday?
Lamar Jackson.
Because if he loses, it's just another year where it's like, dude, this guy is an MVP but can't.
You nailed it. Yeah, that's exactly it. MVP, but he can't win the big game.
Danny, I don't think Josh Allen has that reputation that Lamar has in the playoffs yet.
Not yet. And I think going into this season, the narrative has been there were weapons added to the Ravens, whereas the Bills lost a couple of weapons.
Now you got Henry, you're the MVP, former MVP, and you still can't win? Yeah, that's a bad look for him. So major implications on the line. That's what makes it so exciting because someone gets to rewrite their playoff story here. Someone gets to rewrite the story. Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, you make the call.
And it could be the beginning of something because we mentioned it yesterday. If you watch, like every other human, Last Dance during COVID, Michael Jordan, the Bulls, there was a time. It sounds ridiculous, but we learned in that documentary. We were too young to remember. Before Jordan won his first 3 in a row, there was the narrative that, could Jordan finish? He keeps getting stopped by the Celtics and the Pistons. And then you don't remember any of that because the guy then goes on to win 3, retires, comes back, wins 3 again. So you forget that. But for all we know, this is when Lamar gets over the hump, and maybe he wins 2 of the next 3, and you even forget that narrative existed.
Yep. So that could potentially be the start of that. Rich is absolutely right. Makes it more exciting. So when you think about sports, it's kind of the feeling of watching a replay, and you know what happens. And I'll give the classic example. The classic example is the ball goes to Bill Buckner's legs. You know it does. But there's a part of you that watches thinking, well, maybe this time it doesn't.
Remember in Hot Tub Time Machine?
Right.
Rob Corddry's character bet on the game, and then that little squirrel messed everything up?
Now, Rich, you reap the benefits of that as a Mets fan, right? But how many times does your heart break for that guy? And you're like, maybe if I think hard enough and believe hard enough, or maybe I just fell into a weird parallel universe all of a sudden where he catches the ball.
Don't worry. The Mets are on the opposite end of that quite a bit. I always think about the great Carlos Beltran.
Oh, Carlos Beltran.
I always think, what if he swings at that Adam Wainwright curveball with runners on in Game 7, bottom of the ninth? What if he doesn't look at strike three and he swings? What if Beltran hits a double down the line and the Mets win and go to the World Series? So when you want to rewrite history, sports, movies, everything, there's a lot of things you could go to.
I don't want to rewrite that ending. I just want to rewrite that moment for Bill Buckner, okay? So your Mets still win in my fantasy here, in my story. But
Mookie just beats him to the bag.
Yeah, but it's not Buckner's fault. Okay. He's not blamed for the next 30 years. So that was my starting example here, but not my real example. Because my real example that comes to mind has to be your Seahawks, DB.
Sorry, Dan Byer.
That's all right.
That has to be rewritten, dude. Unacceptable ending.
The whole scenario, and there's so many different layers to what led up to that point just in the final minute. And Rich, you've talked about it on the show.
Horrible ending.
The Seahawks had the ball at midfield, and Jermaine Kearse catches this wacky pass.
Felt like destiny.
Yeah, that bounces around and he catches it, and now you're down to the 5-yard line.
Dude, if that was a movie, right, I would be like, that was great until the ending. So unbelievable. The ending was not believable. No one would ever make that call. That ending sucked. I hated it.
It was my Sopranos. It just ended.
Don't stop it.
Wait,
yes.
My TV broken?
Yeah,
What's going
exactly.
Let me tell you what happened on The Sopranos, okay? I got inside scoop. Paulie Walnuts was an old neighbor of mine. And he told me.
Hey, Steve.
The guy that walked into the diner in the last episode was wearing a members-only jacket, right? One of the first episodes, I think the first episode of the last season, the title was Members Only. If you go back and watch the last season, I think one of the first episodes of that season, Members Only is the title. The very last episode, guy with the members-only jacket walks in. He whacks Tony Soprano, front of his family, the end. That's what happened. That's why he goes black.
That's just an opinion.
That's not an opinion. It's fact. I'm from Jersey. I know.
I don't believe it. You know a guy?
I had gabagool for lunch. I know. You asked me the meat of the day. I told you. Now, gabagool. A lot of people, that would be another great example of I wish I could rewrite that ending, right? But I love the fact that it left it to interpretation. So the Seahawks is my prime example, unfortunately for you, Dan, because even though it really happened, if you were to say that it was a script, you'd be like, no way would any idiot make that call. No way. Worst ending ever. And that's outside looking in. In the world of entertainment, Rich, for me, I always hated in Karate Kid 2.
Yeah.
2. When Daniel-san is like, live or die, man. Live or die. And Chosen says, die. And Daniel-san says, wrong. And he honks his nose. He honks his nose.
That's
which
your answer?
Which you could say, well, that's more humiliating. But no, that was the corniest S I've ever seen. I hated that ending. I wish I could rewrite it. I feel like well, what should we do next? And some jabroni was like, I got it. He honks his nose. And then they're like, yeah, I guess. Honks his nose in a battle for his life in Okinawa. That was the weakest ending I'd ever seen.
All right, I got two.
I want to rewrite it.
I got 2 examples, one movie, one TV, but listen, you could go on and on with sports. As a Niners fan, I watched my team lose 3 Super Bowls in the last 12 years, all games that they were winning or within reach in the fourth quarter. So, I mean, run with Frank Gore. 49ers, Garoppolo, hits a receiver over the middle. Overtime, Brock Purdy doesn't settle for a field goal. There's a million examples.
Goes on defense first, maybe.
Yeah. Just there's so many that would drive you insane.
And Rich, your head coach, how about going back before that, the famous 28-3 game in the Super Bowl?
The fact that Matt Ryan got sacked and they got out of field goal range and they just sort of let the Patriots so easily get back in that game.
Oh, we have a lot of listeners in Georgia. They would all love to rewrite the ending of that Super Bowl.
I'll give you my movie one and my TV one. And both these slight changes, I think, would have left such a different taste in our mouth. And then we'll take all your feedback. Movies. People love to take a big dump on Rocky V. Tommy Gunn, George Washington Duke. I watched it recently. It's not as bad as we remember.
It's not.
If Rocky fought Tommy Gunn in a ring, we have a different memory of this movie. The fact that it was that corny, like, go for it, like street fight, made it trash.
Oh.
If Tommy Gunn fought Rocky in the ring and Rocky wins in the ring, we look at that movie completely different. And the TV example, one of my favorite sitcoms of all time, How I Met Your Mother. I mean, you needed the mom to die? You wait all these years. And then in the final season, Ted Mosby finds the woman he loves, played by Kristen Milioti.
Thanks for ruining it for me.
By the way, Kristen Milioti, who you loved in Penguin.
I did, but now I know she died on that show.
Please,
you ruined my day.
Please, it's considered one of the worst endings of all time. So he finally meets the love of his life to find out, oh yeah, she dies, and he ends up with Robin. Why couldn't he just meet the mom and be like, what a great ending to a phenomenal sitcom?
You know, I didn't even watch that show, but I do agree with you. I feel like it was too easy of an out. Like, well, what do we do to tug the heartstrings? I got it, Johnson. She's dead the whole time. I'm with you on it. I'm with you. I like it.
Well, hey,